South Park Season 27 has been on fire this year, and many fans already consider it one of the strongest seasons the show has delivered in recent memory. The first two episodes, Sermon on the Mount and Got a Nut, were praised across the board. They were bold, sharp, and unafraid to go after powerful political figures like former President Donald Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, and Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem. The way the show handled its satire in those episodes made people say South Park was back at its very best, proving it could still hit hard even after almost 3 decades on air. But now, with episode 3 titled Sickofancy, the conversation has shifted. Some are calling it hilarious and wild, while others think it misses the mark compared to the earlier episodes. This divide has made episode 3 the most talked about and controversial entry in season 27 so far. In Sickofancy, the creators Matt Stone and Trey Parker decided to mix things up by bringing back a familiar fan favorite character, Towelie. Towelie has always been one of those characters who either cracks you up or makes you roll your eyes, so his return was already bound to stir some debate. But the story doesn't just stop with him. This episode also dives headfirst into Trump's dramatic military takeover of Washington, D.C., and throws in parodies of Apple CEO Tim Cook and Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg for good measure. With so many heavy hitters packed into one episode, it's no surprise that reactions are all over the place. Some fans feel like South Park kept up the momentum perfectly. They argue that the mix of tech satire, political commentary, and Towelie's bizarre storyline proves the show can still juggle multiple layers of absurdity and biting criticism. Others, however, were left underwhelmed. After the almost universally loved first 2 episodes, they think Sickofancy stumbled by being too chaotic and not as sharp in its message. It's the kind of reaction that makes you realize South Park is doing what it has always done best, sparking conversations and dividing audiences. Looking at fan reactions online paints a clear picture of just how split people are. For example, Colorado Moderate, a viewer who had nothing but good things to say about the first 2 episodes, admitted that episode 3 wasn't quite as strong. They did find the humor in Trump's military antics, but overall, they thought the earlier episodes simply set too high a bar. Then there's Lord of Flols, who pointed out one of the episode's more bizarre moments, Randy selling Towelie to Trump. This comment highlighted the fact that South Park still isn't afraid to push absurd ideas into the spotlight, reminding everyone that nobody is safe from ridicule in this show. Other viewers went in different directions with their opinions. Daniel Laverchu thought the episode was excellent, calling it wild and suggesting that it lived up to the kind of craziness South Park thrives on. In contrast, a fan named Max was left scratching their head. They wondered out loud what the long-running show was even trying to be about at this point. That kind of reaction shows how divisive things have become. While some are enjoying the chaos, others think it feels directionless. Then there's Blooms, who shrugged off the episode as just all right. They thought most of it fell flat, with Tegrity Farms being the only part they found truly worth watching. But fans like Lucas Sanders were on the other end of the spectrum, celebrating the episode by saying, South Park did it again. Lucas even posted a screenshot of the Zuckerberg and Trump scene, which they thought was one of the highlights. When you line all these reactions up, it's clear that Sickofancy isn't one of those episodes where fans rally together in unanimous praise or hate. Instead, it falls into that tricky middle ground that keeps people talking long after the credits roll. For South Park, that might actually be a good thing. So why exactly is episode 3 so divisive? Part of the answer lies in what came before it. Episodes 1 and 2 were so well received that expectations shot through the roof. They weren't just funny. They were shocking, outrageous, and sharp in their political critique. Trump in bed with Satan. Vance shrunk down to a comical miniature size. Gnome's face melting off in grotesque fashion. These kinds of jaw-dropping visuals and gags made headlines beyond the usual South Park fan circles. They proved the show still had the power to shock in a way that got everyone's attention. But with Sickofancy, the element of surprise naturally wears off a little. Once you've gone as far as melting faces and hellish bedroom scenes, it's tough to top that. By episode 3, some fans may have felt the shock value was starting to lose its punch. While the jokes about tech CEOs like Tim Cook and Mark Zuckerberg were funny to some, others saw them as predictable targets. After all, South Park has poked fun at Silicon Valley many times before, so the satire didn't feel as fresh to everyone. Another factor in the divide is Towelie. He's always been one of those polarizing characters. Either you love the ridiculousness of a talking, drug-addicted towel, or you think his appearances drag down the show. Bringing him back in an episode that was already stuffed with heavy political themes might have felt like too much for some viewers. For others, though, Towelie's return was exactly what they wanted, a dose of absurdity in the middle of all the chaos. Still, even if episode 3 isn't being hailed as one of the greatest South Park episodes ever, it does have its merits. The way it mixes political satire with commentary on big tech culture shows that Parker and Stone are still paying close attention to what's happening in the world. They're not afraid to call out figures like Trump, Cook, and Zuckerberg all in the same half hour, which is exactly the kind of fearless humor that made South Park famous in the first place. From a bigger picture perspective, the reaction to Sickofancy shouldn't be too surprising. No show, not even one as bold as South Park, can deliver back masterpieces every single week. After such a strong start to season 27, it was almost inevitable that a later episode would get more mixed reviews. In a way, the divisive response might even work in South Park's favor because it keeps fans debating about what works, what doesn't, and what the show should do next. And that's the thing about South Park. It thrives on controversy. Every season has at least one episode that splits the fan base right down the middle. And Sickofancy looks like it's that episode for season 27. Whether you thought it was brilliant or boring, it got people talking. It brought back an old character, tackled current political issues, mocked tech billionaires, and still managed to include a storyline bizarre enough to make you wonder what the show will come up with next. Looking ahead, the big question is how South Park will follow this up. The rest of the season still has plenty of room to experiment. And given the way the first 3 episodes have gone, it's clear Parker and Stone aren't holding anything back. If anything, Sickofancy might just be a reminder that South Park works best when it's unpredictable. You never know if you're going to get a near-perfect classic or an episode that leaves you scratching your head, but either way, you'll be talking about it. So, is Sickofancy The most divisive episode, South Park season 27 so far. Absolutely. Does that mean it's a failure? Not at all. In fact, the very fact that fans are so split on it proves the show is still pushing boundaries and refusing to play it safe. Love it or hate it, South Park is doing what South Park has always done, holding up a mirror to society and daring us to laugh, cringe, or argue about what we see. And in today's world, that might be more valuable than ever.